Hello everyone, I just wanted to film this quick intro to my tier list because I didn't start recording right away on the stream, but so I'm going to be making a tier list of Risk of Rain 2 characters, and my main criteria for how I'm tiering these characters is firstly by their consistency I find in a run, and then within those tiers I'm going to be ordering them by how fun I think they generally are to play and taking into consideration, what other people would think. So that's how I'm determining all these tiers. Just wanted to clear that up before we get started, and I hope you enjoy the video. Be sure to follow me on Twitch, please. I'm really close to being affiliate. Subscribe to me here on YouTube, and then hit the like button. Do all those things, and look down below for the timestamps to see where I put your favorite character. Enjoy. Hello, now I'm recording. I'm going to be doing a Risk of Rain 2 tier list. Just kidding. So I'm just going to go ahead and go in order of all of the characters that they are in the select screen. So starting with Commando. Commando is a controversial character because people really don't like Commando. Like they think power creep exists, but they think that Commando suffers the worst from it because his kit is so basic. But when you think about it, Commando is really, in the way that the character we're going to be talking about next, Huntress, is a kind of a jack of all trades. Commando is kind of the same thing. He's just a different tool for the same solution, really. He's a good all-around character. Every item is basically good on Commando. Commando's like not particularly bad with any items. He obviously can't do big single target damage, which leads into one of his weaknesses, but he's a very good on-hit character. On kills are really good. Survivability, obviously movement speed, he benefits from. I would say the number one place he's lacking, as I mentioned earlier, would be single target damage. It's very difficult for him to quickly eliminate, high priority threats. He can't proc bans, so usually something like a weakness like that is what you take an equipment for. So like a Royal Capacitor would be really good on Commando, for example. So when he does run up against a Lemurian, he got a fat ban proc ready to go. But I will say, let's go through some of Commando's toolkit. His loadout, this is my preferred loadout for Commando, and I would say that this is what most people's loadout looks like on Commando. The people usually choose Phase Blast though because of the higher upfront damage. But the way I see it is that the Phase round pierces 2 or 3 enemies and then it proc spans, and that is the perfect time to proc a Kajaro span. Especially on Commando, it helps a lot because you shoot into a group of enemies. Yeah, you don't instantly proc the ban, but you do proc it further into the group in a more strategic location. I would say, if you want to see an example of this, go fight a Beetle Queen on stage 1, play command, get a Kajaro span, fight the Beetle Queen, and you'll see you'll proc the ban on the Beetle Queen like every time because you're shooting through her minions or her flies. Sip of coffee here. And then utility, not controversial. Everyone likes to slide. I understand why you want to use a tactical dive in some situations, but this is definitely a power creep moment because why do you use the roll? I haven't really given any thought or time into using the roll over the dodge, to be honest. I'm trying to think right now, and I can't really think of many situations where the roll does something where the dodge wouldn't. I guess the horizontal aerial movement of it could be pretty good, maybe especially in later games, because being able to just shoot forward really fast, that's not something that's in like I say shoot forward really fast in the air. That's not something that's really in Commando's kit late game. It's like you can get wax quails, but that only works on the ground, or you can get hopping feathers, but that's not kind of forward momentum. So the slide, late game, it just becomes like an extra Hapu feather in the air. Special, now I'm going to be honest, I've only used a grenade for like 20 minutes, but not very interested in what the grenade does. I'm not very interested in what suppressive fire does. I don't think it's a very good skill on Commando, to be honest. Early game, it definitely helps a lot. It's like you're shooting things and you can whip around, bam, 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 stun a golem real quick. That feels good. I like doing that. But otherwise, at the later ends of the game, it's an M1 is the best thing to use. And the suppressive fire works only as like a quick damage burst. It's like the boss spawns and your monkey brain tells you to use big damage, but it saves you like 0.5 seconds over just holding M1 more. So yeah, let's go ahead and put put Commando on the list. And I've done this list before, but I've never I've decided to completely rethink my rankings, which I should go over now as I place one. So I have S plus is the best tier of character. We're gonna get into who the character that belongs there is, but I would choose to go with S plus because of reasons I'll get into later. And then S tier. These are the characters where if you really need that win, you can sit down and you can be like, I want to play the game. I want the challenge, but I also, I want a good win. I want high chances of winning. These are your S tier characters. Characters you can pick every day if you want a quick win. You don't need to experiment with them a lot. Actually, that goes both ways. In this tier, thinking about the characters that are going to be in it. A tier. These are characters your steady picks. You pick these because you love playing them, and they're definitely going to give you like a good run. And you're not always going to win everything. It's a fucking roguelike. But your A tier characters are ones that take a little more risk, but you take that risk because you use that involved moveset because you want to do it. It's fun. That's what's so good about Risk of Rain 2 is that it's fun to use the characters. And then we also have B tier. So B tier is probably like I just look down on these characters, I guess. I'm not sure if power creep is the word for it, but it's like I'm kind of looking at things from a perspective of going to stage 20. Oh, sorry, this track in the Risk of Rain 2 soundtrack has like vocals in it, and it's super distracting, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip that one. All right. Anyway, sorry, got distracted. I think I was at B tier. Those are the characters I look down on. So I'm not gonna like shame anyone for picking them, but I would say that they need a little bit of help to really get the most out of them, and require more item setup. So that's where I am on that, and we'll just get into placing Commando now. So Commando, it's really hard to think to where to put him. Okay. Before I even place Commando, I'm gonna say that all the characters in this game are really good, and you can't go wrong picking any of them. There's no D tier characters. Risk of Rain 2 does not have D tier content like whatsoever. So I'm struggling to even think what is in C tier. I don't think anyone's gonna be in C tier at the end of this, but let's just go forward saying that. Commando, A tier. You can pick Commando and get a good run. He's definitely got that challenge, that edge. But like I said, A tier characters, you pick those because you like them and they're fun to play. And I think Commando's fun to play. Every item is good on him. And sticky bomb, stun grenade, you get some of those, no big deal. But then you stack some attack speed, and then you really see him popping off, and then the ukuleles and then the AGGs, it's like a missile launcher. He is the procinist boy, and there's something to be said about a very fun, satisfying proc. Okay, so that's it. Commando's A tier. Indefensible position or well thought out pieces. That's for you to decide. So now let's go to Huntress. Oh, I spoiled my loadout. So Huntress, let's just get right into the loadout. Huntress. Huntress is a very interesting character. I will say there are some flaws with her kit, but just like Commando, she's got a jack of all trades kind of mentality, but she really is the master of that, because Commando is like well balanced, but Huntress is only good at one thing, and that's just mobility, I guess. Like movement throughout the battlefield, I guess. I don't know. So Huntress has a little bit of everything. She's got the homing arrows as a primary attack. That's not the most procinist thing. And I will say, as far as loadout goes, it is up to you which one you use, flurry or strafe. Again, I'm looking at it from a perspective of going to stage 20 mainly. Stage 20, that's just an example. I say stage 20 because I just go until I die. I continuously loop. But anyway, the flurry. Going to stage 20, doing a long run, a god run for a flurry. That one sounds like it makes more sense because you want to take crit. Obviously, if you're gonna, you can't guarantee you're gonna cap your crit every run. But when you're going to stage 20, you might cap your crit with the Radiant Pearls. You never know. So flurry, that's a good one to take. But I generally take strafe because I feel like it scales better with attack speed. Flurry is always gonna have that like burst shot effectiveness, and I'm just not keen on that. I feel like the Strafe just scales better with attack speed, which is what I care about more in a super late run. Huntress only has one secondary, who would want to use anything else. And then the utility, I would again say that this utility is definitely up to you. But I find that the phase blink lets me keep you around the enemies and makes Huntress a really fun character to play. Because, you know, it's like, what other character can go face to face with an Elder Lemurian and just, you know, obviously she's not gonna like instantly dispatch it, but she can definitely weave in and out of those fireballs. Or if there's like a bison coming at her, just teleport. That's badass. And then all the whole time, you never have to worry about where your shots are going because you know you're doing damage just holding that M1. So it gives you a lot of time to focus on movement. So I think that's a fun reason to play Huntress. But where I really think that Huntress falls apart and is her special ability, which is not very good no matter what. Obviously, please blink. Phase blink is the character me. That's what I was just saying. You know, you hold M1, you can just turn your brain off and you just don't got to think about anything but moving and phase blinking. And that one's like, it's really fun. It's a fun playstyle. And I didn't even mention blink, but blink obviously is a really good skill. Who else can just go up or any direction, you know, in a straight teleport? But I just think it's kind of uninspired and it's not as fun as phase blink. I think they should probably rework it into something more fun. Anyway, back to the special. I prefer to use Arrow Rain because me and Ballista, we got beef. But no, Ballista's a great skill, and I understand why people use it. It is a great way to quickly dispatch targets, which, you know, Hunter struggles with, just like Commando. But I feel like the Arrow Rain, it just has more utility to me overall, and I like the procs of it. Even it has a really low proc coefficient, 0.2. I feel like that could be better, but I'm not sure exactly how it scales with attack speed or what it's doing. But it also applies a slow debuff, so Huntress is a little known fact that one of the characters you need a natural debuff with to spawn Deathmark by yourself. But Arrow Rain, it's really good, it's fun. Having multiple Arrow Rains on a boss shreds. ATGs for days. I love it. Ballista, I just don't think that it's strong enough to really warrant putting it in the slot. So sorry, a bit of it cut off. Oh well. Yeah, it's just, it goes back to the jack of all trades thing. Huntress, she is not very good at any one particular space, and you know, high priority single target damage is one of those things you don't want to be like mediocre at, really, because you know, if I want to play a hard hitting character, you know, I'll use Captain for his orbital beacon or Artificer for her ion bomb or Loader to punch things. So as far as the utility of the Ballista goes, I'm perhaps in single player, definitely, you know, to shore up some of Huntress's weaknesses, but you know, the best way to do that would probably be get an equipment that does a high single target damage. But I feel like Arrow Rain just scales better with you know, most of the items in the game. And also, I didn't mention bands, but the M2 proc bear the bands is fine, and Huntress, just like other characters, 2 ATGs that procs your bands, 2 Will-O-Wisp that procs your bands, Shuriken now in the game procs your bands, so it's not really an issue. So let's go and put Huntress on the tier list. I would say Huntress. And again, I'm going to put the best characters closer to this, and then the worst characters will be farther out. So I'm going to just go ahead and take Huntress. I'm also going to put her in A. Again, A tier is this tier for the characters that you play because they're fun. And Huntress is fun. She has a fun moveset, and that's all there is to say about it. I'm going to edge her slightly above Commando because I just think Huntress movement a little bit more fun than Commando Pew Pew. But that's up to me. And you know, you might prefer the Pew Pews over the Blink Blink, but that's completely up to you. All right, now Bandit. This is my opinions on Bandit are a little more controversial than the most. I know when Bandit kind of hit the scene, everyone was kind of starved for character content, that is. So had been a long time since Captain was released, and so there hasn't much going on. Sorry, take a drink. But Bandit, I thought, you know, great for them to bring back a original character. So as far as Bandit's loadout goes, again, this character really shows how the development process of the Brisker Rain has changed over the time that it's been out, which is obviously years. But these skills are a lot more balanced. You know, there's not as many no-brainers to pick this instead of that skills. I will say it's completely up to you which one you want to pick as Bandit. I prefer just default Bandit. That's really good for me. Fire Blast. So I just feel the spread shot does more damage because I'm generally closer with Bandit. And also the spread shot is predictable enough that, you know, if there's a wisp far away and I need to shoot it for an extra $2, like, I feel like I can consistently land that with Bandit. Bandit does suffer from Captain Secondary Syndrome, though, because these secondaries, not it. I don't care which one you go with. I can't imagine a situation where this would become, like, the main part of your kit. I mean, print backup mags on stage 3 or 2 or 3 or something so that, you know, you can whack. That's good. That'd be kind of funny. But other than that, Hemorrhage, not exactly like the greatest debuff. What does it even say about Hemorrhage? It doesn't even say anything about what Hemorrhage is or does. Hemorrhage, 2000% base damage over 15 seconds. Okay, so that's not bad. But so it's just super bleed. I've always used to use it. I've just assumed that it was bleed, but I never actually like read what it did. Smoke Bomb. This is definitely Captain's. Sorry, I want to get to Smoke Bomb because that's my favorite skill, but we got to talk about the secondaries a little bit more first because I didn't even mention the differences. So the Serrated Dagger, that's your melee one, and then Serrated Shiv, that's your distance one. And I always say this does not matter. When I'm playing Bandit, I'm hitting that M2 whenever it's ready. Like even if there's no enemies, I just do that a lot. I just hold the buttons. You know, I'm constantly shooting and I'm constantly M2ing. So a lot of the times I would go for the Shiv just so that when I hit it, it at least has a chance of going out and hitting something. But I really find myself just using the Serrated Dagger just for the fun of it because of it goes in with the Smoke Bomb ability, which is obviously it's a Bandit's best ability. Just going invisible, that poof does damage. You hit that Civ and then you poof out. It is satisfying. Anything that's, you know, Bandolier, Hard Light Afterburner, Alien Head, anything that can make him do that more is extremely fun. And that goes into his special ability, Lights Out. You know, you get the kill. It resets your cooldowns. And I will say, both of these abilities don't matter to me. I don't care about either of these abilities, but I would say that both of them are equally useless in a long run because Lights Out, Bandolier, like I just said, Hard Light Afterburner, Brain Stalks, whatever, like that's gone. That doesn't matter. And then Desperado, by the time you are able to build up huge damage stacks, like you literally don't need to. Like your ATG, just proc an ATG and you'll do more damage. You know, you probably have 3 or 4 of them or something at that point. And then just to methodically go and kill every little enemy. But I will say, maybe if you play around this a little more, like I said, if you do have Bandoliers or Hard Light Afterburners or whatever, then you're not really worried about your cooldowns anyway, so you can just spam this a little more. Like that would be all right. Also, with the introduction of Lysate Cell, I bet that there's a fun build that can be done with this. But I would say that's the limitation of a Bandit fun build. And then now for the big thing about Bandit is his backstab bonus. When Bandit first came out, I thought his moveset's too involved for this game. You know what I mean? It's just we're not exactly making enough like small level enemy placement decisions, you know, to really think about shooting the back of an enemy. And I still believe that, you know, you don't train a mob of enemies and then be like, okay, time to get to the back. You know, you're just gonna shoot them, and if it hits them in the back, it hits in the back. You know, it's just a fun bonus. So it's not exactly like a big game changer, but definitely, you know, ally worship unit on stage 4, huge. Like just being able to dish out those teleporter boss damage, very good. But yeah, Bandit, overall good character, fun, but his utility is really the star of the show, and it's fun, but is it a skill enough to carry a whole character? I'm gonna say no. I love Bandit. Well, I love Bandit. Bandit's great, but I don't love Bandit. I just said I love Bandit, but I don't. I lied. All right, so let's go ahead and put him on the list. Bandit. I'm gonna tentatively put him in B tier because, you know, this is a character I look down on. I don't judge you for picking him. I understand why he's fun, but he leaves something to be desired. His kit is lacking. All right, let's go to this best boy, MUL-T. I fucking love MUL-T. Okay, spoiler alert, I love multi, and I'm always doing something different with multi. Multi has to be, as far as ranged characters go, this is it. Multi is your guy. Like if you want to do any kind of range, you want to be a machine gunner, you want to be a sniper, other than a Railgunner, or you want to do rockets for some reason, or even if you want to be the fucking buzzsaw blender on a stick, like multi can do it all. So that right off the bat makes him a great character. It's very hard to put a survivor like this in a tier because there's so many different options, so many configurations. I can show you one of my favorite is rebar puncher and retool, double rebar, you know. What I actually do with multi is I go into my keyboard settings and I will change his special skill from my R to my M5 so that I can just hold the buttons on my mouse. What I do is I hold, you know, M5 with my thumb here, M1, M2, and you just hold those, and then all of his abilities just come out. He shoots his little M2 rocket, and he'll constantly switch between the rebars. Very powerful. And I will say, you know, a lot of people are like, why would you do anything other than double nail gun power mode? And that's a very valid point. I do think that double nail gun power mode multi is extremely powerful and super fun to play. I love the nail gun. I remember playing multi before the nerf. His nail gun used to have like no spread and no startup time. It was basically just like Commando. But the nail gun double nail gun power mode is still really fun. But I like the retool rebar. I would say the only reason that those kind of are comparable is because they do damage a lot, yes, in different ways, you know. But what gives the rebar puncher that little extra edge would definitely be the second equipment slot, because you know you get two good equipments in there, you can do some crazy stuff. You know, you just need a gesture and a couple, you know, fuel cells or a soulbound catalyst, and then you could do blast shower. You could do 2 blast showers, or a blast shower and a tonic, or you could do anything. You know, it's like you could have a Samarang and missile launcher. You can literally, I think that's what gives the rebar puncher the extra little edge to choose over power mode. I would say if a retool didn't have the extra equipment slot, I don't think there'd be much reason to use double rebar. I mean, it's just the same thing but slower. Damage is slower, I should say, but your character's not slower. A lot faster than using power mode. But yeah, no, it's the second equipment for me that does it, that really pushes it over. I wouldn't say pushes it over, but makes it worth using. And then I will quickly mention the scrap launcher, something I have little experience with other than meme runs. It's not good. It's like Artificer's M1. It's on a cooldown. You got to reload it, and the damage isn't there. It's like not very good for procs. Like maybe it needs to ignite or something, or stun, or like you can get more bullets. Scrap launcher risers. Scrap launcher risers. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you got more attack speed, you get more bullets or something, or you could like charge it up or something. Multi doesn't have any like charged. I don't know. I don't know what they would do with scrap launcher to make it good, because they definitely have reworked it. It used to be like the brute shot from Halo, but now it's more like an errant fireball, just like a lost missile. I don't know. I'm not huge on it. And then power saw. What is there to be said about power saw? What are you gonna do with power saw? You gonna play command and get a bunch of leeching seeds or something? Or are you just gonna run around the map with 1,000 wisps chasing you for 3 stages? I love power saw. The suction on it is a little much for me. I wish it was a little bit easier to control, but I love the crazy things you can do with it. You know, like you go into power mode and you keep holding those saw buttons and you don't let go. As long as you don't technically trigger an ability, things like red whip and, you know, whatever else proc, so you can just get some crazy things going with the power saw. And it interacts with a lot of items in unique ways, and there's something to be said for that. But you know, the overall utility of it, it's not going to take you far if you're alone, especially unless you get lucky. There is ways to make it, you know, viable, but you know, razor wires and must, leeching seed, ukulele, stuff like that. Like when like higher rarity or green items or less accessible items are, you know, almost required for your build, it's just not a good situation to be in. You're way better off taking one of the first 2 options. But no matter what you can do, multi. I will also, side note, multi is a very good character to do a 4-player run as. You know, 4 multis can do it. four of other characters can struggle. I've played runs with 8 multis, 10 multis, and it's just great. I've done all Commando runs. I've done all Acrid runs, all loader. All like I will say that the most consistent all character run definitely multi. You don't even got to use different combinations, but a 4-player run, it's really fun. Everyone chooses, one person gets nail gun, one person gets rebar, one person gets scrap launcher, or even did a run where we used a random number generator to completely determine our build. So it's like someone got like retool with double nail gun, so that's really fun. But yeah, multi, I didn't mention his the rest of his kit. So his M2 is good in certain circumstances. I will say it's lost in power mode. You can't use it in power mode. Kind of sad. But like I said, during double rebar, if you hold M2, it'll actually fire it because it releases the bomb when you switch. So it'll hold it out for a second, but then when you switch again, it'll finally just release and start cooling down again. So it basically automatically fires. Kind of useless, but just a fun little. It has big serrated dagger energy. You just throw it out there to like spook a big mob. It's like look at big number. So it's just fun to use. And then there's his utility transport mode, his little car mode. This one, it is what it is. It gets you killed just as much as it saves you. You get into a bad situation. Oh shit, I got a dip, and then you turn around and immediately hit a Lemurian, and you're just like, oh. So it's like the armor bonus is really good. Vagrant's exploding, and you got a clear path. You just tank it because you get all that extra armor. Also, it's really fun for a melee multi build because you get hard light afterburner, and you say you're using power saw or something. That slam, it's heavy. It's heavy, meaning that it does more damage the faster you're going. So if you have like a wax quail or something, or you see that red whip proc, you wax quail jump, pow, hit him, and then that's a band proc right there. So yeah, like that strategy would go, hold your saw out until your red whip procs, make sure your band is off cooldown, and then you wax quail jump while activating the red whip buff, and then you hit him with that. That's a extreme single target damage, and I think people sleep on that a lot. The transport mode component to a melee multi build, definitely slept on, I feel like. All right, and then power mode, badass. We love power mode. But let's go ahead and put multi on the tier list. Is he more fun than Huntress? Is multi more fun than Huntress? That's the question I'm asking myself right now. I know he's more fun than Commando. I love Commando, but if I'm gonna pew pew, I'm gonna pew pew with a fucking nail gun. Sorry. Is multi more fun? Let me take a sip and while I ponder this dilemma. I'm gonna say yes. I think multi is more fun than Huntress because getting in the action with the power mode nail gun, that's hilarious. It's nice to be really close, but I don't know, something about rebar sniping everything on the map. It's like, oh, he's over there fighting some wisp, pow. Or it's like, oh, there's like a little train of Lemurians that's been following me, and they just took a boost pad, so they're all lined up. Get them all. Love that. And the Huntress, there's so much variety to multi. You can have a different experience if you play them every single run. We just change them up. Huntress, she's really only this one thing all the time. So I guess that's why the edge has to go to multi. Now coming up next is my boy. This is where it all started. Engineer, my favorite character from back in the day. So my first profile that has like 700 hours on it is like 50% pick rate because I spent literally half my time playing this game playing as Engineer. I loved Engineer. I would always play on Engineer with Drizzle, and I would play with my little Xbox controller, and I'd be like, oh, the Risk of Rain 2 is so good. I played like 300 hours of Engineer on Drizzle with a controller, which I think is crazy to me now. I use mouse and keyboard obviously, but like it's crazy to think about that I was just like scratching my neck looking for the fucking bungus every run, and that's all I ever cared about. Yep, Angie's old mines, rip. But let's go over Engi's moveset. So primary, no variation there. I will say, I feel like Engineer's primary gets a lot of undue hate. You know, I will say it's like during a late run when it's finally like has enough attack speed to use, I would say that's when it really shines. It really shines when it's like super OP and broken, but like it's actually fun to use because at late game, proc coefficient 1, that's great. So there's no downside to like the procs with those. And so late game, it actually becomes your like almost your best damage because you can actually shoot it out really fast, and it's a lot of bombs and they explode really like fast and far and they proc the shit out of things. So it's like your M1 can just shred like a whole group of enemies. Putting down your turrets, no matter whether you're using walking or stationary turrets, it's gonna be like, it's gonna take a little time. They're gonna have to pew them down. It's not exactly like a swift like execution like it might be when you take 12 grenades to the face, or however many, 8. But yeah, so I think the bounce grenades a little bit slept on. Early game, I tended to boom, 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 just like, you know, tap it, just shoot out my little ones, just to make the procs happen. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to proc an ATG. I'm not trying to snipe someone down with my freaking soccer balls. The mines. So the mines, the pressure mines, great. We all love pressure mines. Huge damage. I think that the pressure mines are very good if you're going to use them properly. But you know, I always say that, like, the more involved a moveset is, like, the less it shines, I think. So this pressure mine, the setup is great if you can manage to make it happen. I would recommend doing that every time. You know, if you're going to play around your mines, especially early game for the first loop or so, you can do some serious damage, take out some big targets. But I would say that the quick burst damage of the brain off spider mine is the better option in almost every situation. It's a good band proc as well. It's Engineer's best band proc, I believe. Yeah, it does more damage than the missiles. So I would say that placing the robot mine is better, just so that you can get the damage out quickly. It knows where to go. And the only downside to it, which is the same for the other mine, is that it can't kill wisps for you. Unless, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, the spider mine's definitely good. If you get like brain stalks with this, that's what I always do. Bam, 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 bam. I mash that because if you have 4 mines out, it doesn't have to land to explode. So you can be up in the air shooting out these brain stalk mines, and you know they'll explode like 4 feet from you. So that's becomes a really powerful attack, especially if you like go up to a boss with brain stalks and you just mash M2. You can actually deal some damage really quickly. Thermal harpoons versus the shield. This one, matter of preference. You know, they serve wildly different purposes, but what I think is that the shield is a death trap. Using it on yourself is not a good idea. I think it only exists to protect your turrets, because standing there yourself is bad, because standing in one area in Risk of Rain 2 is bad. How long does this shield last? It doesn't even say how long it lasts. Are you kidding me? Okay, well, doesn't matter. The amount of time that it lasts is long enough so that enemies start to pile up on you. Not a good idea. And then the turrets. Sorry, now I should talk about the missiles. So the missiles, I think that also not my favorite skill. Takes too long to set up. It's something that I didn't mention about Huntress, but you know, when you go and use your special, she teleports up and then you're kind of blocked into it. It's not to the same extreme on Engineer's missiles, but I would say it's got some of the same qualities. You know, it takes too much time to set up. I often find myself just activating it and then panning the screen around really fast, just, you know, just to hit whatever. I just want the missiles out of me. Just want them to go somewhere. So I would say general utility in a run, the missiles are going to have a little more longevity and usefulness, definitely more synergy with items in general, because they can at least proc something or do damage. I find myself most using them, you know, I'm sitting by a chest and there's one enemy on the stage and it's across the map. I'm gonna send my missile over there and get the $8 for killing it or whatever. But that's about it. I'm not gonna be using it to, you know, turn the tides of battle or save myself from a life-threatening situation. That's more like what the mines are for. But the missiles, good damage option when you have the time to just send them out. And then turrets. Turrets, obviously, it's preference because, you know, it depends on what kind of run you want to do. I really feel the stationary turrets are like bungus machines. Like, what else are you going to do with them? Like, you have to take bungus at that point if you're going to be using those. After a certain point, you don't need the bungus anymore. You know, you have 30 bungus, and then you pick up a wungus. You don't even really care at that point about your turrets because you can do so much damage yourself. Your turrets are just there to turn your brain off. You know, you just put them somewhere and you run around because you have so much movement speed or whatever. But I would say that the bungus turrets, really powerful, really good. But not the end-all be-all of the stationary turrets. They're really good because they have a long range, good for solo play or eclipse difficulty or something like that. But I also think that the walking turrets are a little more fun. They're a little more stupid and goofy. I like to see them walk around, and I love the way they circle enemies when they attack. And there's a lot of fun things you can do with them, especially if you're playing multiplayer. A fun trick is if you're loader and you have the alternate M2, you can actually grab the engineer turrets and fly around with them. You can make them airborne, and you can just like do a flyby and a zip zap laser. And it's also really fun to like take them away from the NG and be like, haha, I have your turret, and they can't, like, you know, they're defenseless. But yeah, otherwise, how to torture people as loader. Okay. I prefer the moving turret just because of the funny. But like I said, I played so much engineer, and for the longest time, all he had was bungus. And I love bungus. Nukahanas and bungus, classic combo. Engineer, super fun character. But at the end of the day, he shares a lot of same qualities as Acrid. You use your abilities like once when they're off cooldown, and then you run around in a circle. Surprise, that's what you do in Risk of Rain 2. You run around in a circle. But like, you know, you just prance around the perimeter of the teleporter zone. You know, you hope you get a wax quail or something. Just go around in a circle. Yeah, and that's what Acrid does too. You poison something and then you run around in a circle, basically. But engineer, you know, the micromanagement aspect of the turrets is really fun. The team play aspect of the turrets is also really good. He's really good in Simulacrum. Yeah, I didn't take Simulacrum into account when making this tier list because I'm basically basing this off of looping runs, long runs. You know, who's gonna get you a god run? You know, god runs always end the way you want them to usually. Whether that's killing Mythics or going to the planetarium or just obliterating or twisted scaff, whatever. But engineer, he's definitely a pretty consistent character, especially his turrets being so strong. If you get the right items, you know, like one bungus can alter the trajectory of a run with those stationaries if you get it early enough. But he also has several other advantages, like being able to press the buttons on stage 2, which isn't something I've mentioned, but I will mention later on the characters that it applies to. But engineer can also get the buttons on stage 2. Yeah, I'd say the only downside is definitely his movement speed. He has no movement abilities, but you know, Wax Quail, that is your movement ability. Take it or leave it. Now it comes down to placing Engie. And the number one question I gotta ask is playing engineer fun? And you know, your mileage may vary with that. I thought playing engineer was so fun. Risk of Rain 2, little did I know, was gonna become my favorite game. But engineer was the thing keeping me coming back every day. But I know a lot of people think that he's boring, and that's justified. You know, especially if you pigeonhole him into doing just bungus. But you know, combat Engie, he's gonna be a fun character. All right, so let's go. Let's say, is engineer more fun than Huntress? Commando. MUL-T. Oh, so this is where personal preference would really sway me right now, because I'm tempted to put engineer right here because that's where everyone would assume he belongs. But this is where I would put him because that's how I like it. And I think I'm just gonna I'm gonna have to concede a bit here. Engineer there. All right, it's almost half the roster done now. So let's go ahead and look at it overall. So we got a strong grouping in A tier. So I don't, like I said, there's no D content in Risk of Rain 2. No D tier content. C tier, debatable. I don't think there's going to be anybody in C tier, but I would say all the characters have really strong movesets, and like the worst character in this game is a B, and that's a great compliment for Risk of Rain 2. You know, it's like how many games can you say where like all the characters are good? No. In terms of not just their success in runs or at the game or the gameplay, but also in terms of how fun they are to play. So Risk of Rain 2 obviously strikes a really nice balance. Yeah, but other than that, like, I don't know, all the characters are really good. That's what I'm trying to get at. All right, so I'm gonna take a quick second, a little break, now that we're kind of reflected on the placement of these characters. Just to do a little self-promo. Just so I can try to get some more people in here, because I like discussion. Just take a little screenshot. All right. Now that I have incited some violence, I'm ready to go on to our next cow. Artificer. Artificer. So this is a character that I probably have some of the lower experience with. But I will say I do love me some default Artificer. It's always the pick that I go with. And I will say that her skills are pretty well balanced in the way that it's kind of a preference thing. There's no no-brainer like one to pick, you know. It's a good playstyle preference balance there. Sorry. I've just got to defend myself on Discord real quick. I said I incited some violence. Okay, anyway, Artificer. Yeah, all of her skills, easy to pick. But I will say that Artificer, to me, is one of the characters that is a little too involved and suffers from a lot of inconsistency, I'll say. She's definitely one of those characters that gimmick early on is going to do wonders for. You know, you get, say you find like an attack speed printer on stage 1, or like a goat hoof printer or something that you can like get 4 or 5 of and really turn the tides on. But as far as like just assembling a general build, you know, you don't get, maybe you get like a cautious slug and a stunned grenade and like a gorse tome. It's like you're not exactly bussing. It's she's one of the characters who's like struggling, you know what I mean? As far as her skill set goes, I love the primary attack on Artificer. It's so powerful, so satisfying to use. The damage over time when the fire debuff is great. I have less experience using the plasma bolt, but the AoE on it is pretty good. Just like the AoE on the flame bolt, it's also it's good damage. You can actually like see it. So I would say that the AoE is sufficient on either way you go. The damage over time on the flame bolt, I think it makes it the way to go. Also, it's a debuff. The ignite icon up there contributes to death mark, so it's also a really good option to have. Yeah, so that's why I go with the flame bolt primarily. And then, all right, so the charged nano bomb. This is Artificer's bread and butter. We all love Artificer's M2s, but I'm not aim good, so the nano bomb is like one of the main reasons I use Artificer. So that's basically the best I can do is just get a big fat bomb and chuck it in a group of enemies. So I'm gonna have to say that the charged nano bomb, definitely my pick, but I can also see why the ice spear is also a great option for people, especially if they have good aim or can take a good use of the good use of the piercing effect. That's usually requires you to be on the ground, but definitely a good, boss killer, mythics killer rather. Freezing high damage enemies are really good. Ice in general is super strong, makes Artificer really good. And then the tick down of the damage over time while they're frozen helps you get to that threshold. And then utility of the ice wall. What can you say about it? There's no other options to pick. Ice wall's fun. It's not exactly the most powerful skill on its own, but the execution's really good. The ice wall definitely does good work against Mithrix. Also, when you get a big group of enemies with it, it's very satisfying. And like I said about the ice spear earlier, the ticking down of the flame damage really helps you get to that threshold faster. So that's why I like to have the flame. And then here's the controversy. Time for the controversy. Artificer. Are we a flamethrower Artificer or are we Ion Surge Artificer? So do you like to have fun or do you not like to have fun is the question. I'm just kidding. But it's got to me, it's got big strides of heresy energy. Like the utility is clearly there. But do I like to use it? Do I think it's fun? Do I think it's a cool skill to be a part of Artificer's damage rotation? Not necessarily, because I really feel like it takes an ability out of Artificer's damage rotation, which one, Artificer already has a lot of downtime because you fire your skills, you charge your M2, you do your ice wall, and then what, you're gonna Ion Surge? You're already up in the air, or if you Ion Surge, it's gonna take you super far away from the enemies you're fighting. So it's like the best way to use it would probably be to jump up in the air and then let yourself come back down, and then by the time it's ready to do it again, you throw off all your skills and then you do it again. It's like that seems like a lot of activity for not a lot of results. And then the other way to use Ion Surge is just going up in the air and just staying there. So now you're already up in the air. All your skills are on cooldown. You're just like floating around up in the sky. It's like, when my cooldowns are done, you guys are fucked. But it's like, I don't know. It's just not a very fun skill to use in Artificer's damage rotation. Because Artificer's such a unique survivor in the way that she has to constantly rotate her abilities. So I think that taking a skill out of the damage rotation is kind of a flaw. Even though there is the other side of the coin, which is all the utility of being able to just fly around. But that's why I go with Flamethrower. I just think that the damage of the burn is super good, stacking those ignites. And then there's so many things that scale with it now. Attack speed scales with it. They have ignition tank in the game. And there's just so many reasons to use Flamethrower. It's so satisfying. The only problem with Flamethrower is that when I always accidentally sprint when I hit Flamethrower. It's just in my brain to always sprint. So the second I pop my Flamethrower, I want to start sprinting, and then it cancels the Flamethrower, and I'm like... But yeah, Artificer, I love playing default Artificer. I love to play Artificer when I want to switch it up. And Artificer is a really fun character to get a good run on because it's super satisfying to finally get a good run on Artificer. But at the end of the day, when we're putting things on the tier list, the number one factor in determining where they go on the tier list is how consistent they are at going to a long looping stage in a run. So I'm gonna have to put Artificer in B tier. And I'm sorry I'm giving away the putting the cart before the horse or whatever, but now at this point I have to decide whether playing Artificer is more fun than playing Bandit. And to be honest, I really think that they are about equal to me. No, and I can't say that because I really like using the Flamethrower, and Artificer's Fry Ice Wall is a really fun strategic option, and I'm just gonna have to put Artificer in front of Bandit. I know Artificer is a little bit slower and more methodical of a character, but I find that I just enjoy the runs that I get on the good runs that I get on Artificer more than I enjoy the good runs I get on Bandit, and that's really where I gotta put it at the end of the day. All right. Damn, this is almost an hour long, and I'm nowhere near done. This is gonna be a long video. All right, so let's go ahead and see now Mercenary, my boy. So once I finally stopped being the virgin engineer player, I immediately switched to the Chad sword wielding anime protagonist, Mercenary. And I gotta say, Mercenary was my favorite character. He was my second love. Like, you know, everyone goes through those phases of having the characters they love, and it's usually an order of unlocking. You know, it's like, oh, Commando's good, but you know, it's kind of boring. I understand that he's basic because he's the first one. Then you unlock Huntress, and like, oh, Huntress is so good. And then back in the day, you unlock MUL-T, and you're like, oh, MUL-T's so good. But I basically stopped on Engineer, thinking that. I was like, Mercenary, how's it melee? I'm not gonna wait. No, I need to shoot things. I'm not gonna use a sword. But then I started playing melee or Mercenary, and I saw how fast he was, and I was really attracted to the speed of that character. So I started playing him because I go fast, and he at the time was the fastest. This is my cat Winston, by the way. He's the fastest character, really fun. So yeah, I have a lot of time on Mercenary. You know, it's like 50% Engineer pick, and then like 40% Mercenary pick, and 10% for everyone else on that 700-hour profile. So let's go into skills. Primary, really fun. Just like Artificer, Mercenary is one of those characters that has a cool skill rotation. And the reason I pick the skills that I do is because I enjoy the skill rotation that it provides. Obviously, all these skills are up to preference. Another really good design survivor where it doesn't matter what you pick, the skills are kind of equal. The only one that I really don't like is Rising Thunder. I just don't like the trajectory it puts you into. I understand that it does more damage, and that's why people use it, and they want to go up. But I find Mercenary has no problem going up. I prefer the secondary Whirlwind for the utility. You know, horizontal coverage on the ground, hitting it up slopes, using it to like prevent fall damage or keeping yourself in the air. Super useful. It just kind of does everything for me. It's all things to all people. So that's why I like it so much. And then the utility and special kind of really go hand in hand. I understand that the idea is to use Focus Assault because it exposes, and then Slicing Winds because that also exposes. But I find that that's kind of limits your range of ability a little bit too much with Mercenary. It makes them less useful in some situations. So I always tend to choose one or the other. So either I'm going to have my triple blink and Slicing Winds because I don't need to teleport on my R as well, or I'm going to go Focus Assault and then Eviscerate, so I still have, you know, the ability to reach safety when I need to, whether it's getting away or just using Eviscerate. So I would obviously recommend choosing one or the other, although you know, default Mercenary or default with the Rising Thunder, also a really good build. Eviscerate's an awesome ability. I love Eviscerate, but ultimately I give the award to Slicing Winds because I think it's just a much more fun ability to use, and it covers more ground for sure. It attacks more enemies. I don't really exactly use it ranged. Anytime I use Slicing Winds, I'm like 3 feet away from the thing I use it on anyway. It's very satisfying to hit in large groups. And then the Expose. You can hit 3 enemies with the Exposed. And if you expose 3 enemies and then you get the Expose off, that's like all your cooldowns reset like right there. So Slicing Winds is like brain stocks from the beginning. It's really good. And then combine that with Triple Blink or Blinding Assault. So the way Mercenary works is your primary, the third attack exposes, and the Laser Sword, you have just enough time to do those 3 attacks and then use that Blinding Assault. Do those 3 attacks, another Blinding Assault. 3 attacks, Blinding Assault. So it's like, it's perfectly timed out in that way so that you can constantly expose. And then also the same thing, Slicing Winds also fits between a Blinding Assault teleport. I'm not sure if Eviscerate does. I think you can cancel out of it into the second target of a Blinding Assault, but it's not ideal. You know, you want to get the full iframes of the Eviscerate in most cases. So I would say Slicing Winds, very, very good utility. As far as cooldowns go, I think that I don't really, you know, use either of his R abilities for the damage aspect of it, but I just prefer Slicing Winds. It's a really hard ability to unlock. It's definitely worth it. Yeah, you just can't overstate the level of exposed procs that you get with Slicing Winds. You don't even need to pair it with the Focus Assault because using that Blinding Assault is definitely going to help you get through those targets that are exposed a lot more consistently and a lot more often. Also, I just like to use it for traversal. You know, you teleport, you hit a wisp, and then you can teleport again. Gets you across the stage like pretty fast. So I love Mercenary. I think that he's a good character, and he definitely falls into those characters whose good. He's consistent. If you played Mercenary every day, it's very possible you can get to a level of skill where more of your runs are successful than not. You know, it's like your unsuccessful runs are just, you know, you got a long teleporter boss, or you hit a mountain shrine and you got Gore's Tome or something. Like, you know, it's just bad situations that really bring Mercenary down. So he's definitely going in A tier, but we have to determine if he's more fun than all of the other characters in A tier. And there's my biggest complaint about Mercenary the way he is now is that his teleport abilities scale too much off of movement speed. If I'm going to stage 20, I don't want to pick Mercenary because I know I'm going to get 10 energy drinks and I'm just going to press shift and I'm going to be across the map and I'm not going to be fighting anything anymore. And that kind of bums me out. And I know they put Stone Flux Pauldron in the game now, so there's ways to mitigate that, which I haven't tried yet. I got that idea the other day, but I have not tried it yet. But yeah, his teleports just go too far, I think. And his yeeting. How could I forget about the yeeting? I used to love yeeting the ally worship units, where you teleport down and it smashes it into the ground. That used to be so much easier and made Mercenary so powerful. I did it to Solus Probes. I did it to the Wandering Vagrants. I could very consistently kill Wandering Vagrants instantly. And then probably would have been able to do it with the Psy Constructs, but they're probably better designed. Yeah, let's see. Mercenary, yeah, he's definitely the most fun. He's definitely got a high skill ceiling. So I think that he's definitely deserving of this top spot in A tier. As far as consistency goes, you know, all of these A tier characters are about the same consistency. So really that in tier organization that puts them, you know, my preference of how fun I think they are. And then my preference also considering other people's preferences, which is why I put Enchi last. All right, I'm gonna take another screenshot. All right. Now it's time for my boy, Rex. And I'm just gonna say, I love Rex. Rex is probably my favorite ranged gear. My favorite ranged damage dealing survivor. Someone called this an IGN tier list. All right, so yeah, he's my favorite ranged damage dealing survivor. I love his playstyle. His risk reward aspect of using his health for damage is super fun. I think that his skill set is, for the most part, most of his skills are actually like worth taking, you know. Secondary, there's a lot of really cool builds you can do with this one, but I definitely prefer the secondary to be my Seed Barrage, because that's just no other character I feel like can do it like Rex can. You know, it's like he can shred high target enemies, especially if he immobilizes them with his Tangled Growth. Like no other character can just delete the Stone Titaned or Stone Golems or Elder Lemurians at range, I should say. Like Rex can. Obviously, Railgunner now being in the DLC, yeah, Railgunner is pretty capable of doing that at a pretty good range. But as far as like quickly and consistently, you know, there's no headshots required or anything. There's no aiming. There's no rigmarole to it. You boop and it boops. Yeah, you can't do much better than Seed Barrage in my opinion. The utility skill. It's a certified loader moment, because it's like one of these skills is an obvious upgrade to the other. It's like this heal, the Bramble Volley, the heal for every target hit is so powerful. If you hit 3 enemies with it, that heals you to full. It's useful as a movement ability otherwise, but like these are the exact same skill, except one hurts and heals you and one doesn't. And the hurt and heal is like, it's a no-brainer. Like that heal is so powerful and the hurt is so minimal, like under the right situations. that it's just definitely worth taking. And then at the base of it, the utility stays the same. Obviously, it doesn't apply the debuff, but like literally everything else Rex does applies debuff. Actually, no, only the M1 applies debuff, which, you know, I'm not really playing around that anyway. It's more of a nice bonus than a essential, you know, aspect of his kit. But yeah, the utility, Ramble Volley all the way. I always pick that one. And then the special, okay. I am a rare Rex Fruit stan. I love the Rex Fruit mode. I love shooting the Rex's Directive Harvest, the healing fruits. Really fun, hilarious to play around. But at the end of the day, Tangling Growth is one of the most powerful skills in the game, in my opinion. Being able to immobilize, you know, the large groups of enemies, the amount of healing it gets from you. Take this thing in the simulacrum, when that wave starts, you through all those enemies, boom, that's free healing. You run around the void, do your little Rex looting. Yeah, Tangling Growth, you know, especially if you're alone or you get like a clutch ass like Tangle Growth like on the ceiling and you get all the wisps or something. Singularity Band, you know, a teammate with a band or whatever. It's just so good. You just can't go wrong using this like ever. It also is the most consistent way to one-shot the ally worship unit. I have a video on my channel that shows you how to kill the ally worship unit in 1 second using Rex's Tangling Growth. And then yeah, the fruit, funny meme, helps your teammates. Not exactly something to play around. All right. So Rex. Yeah, I think that Rex is one of the strongest survivors in the game. I love playing Rex. I feel like once you master his risk reward of using his health as damage, he becomes a very powerful asset. So I would have to say that Rex is our first S tier character, because I feel like more often than not, you can get a solid win on Rex just by knowing his kit and playing within the bounds of, you know, what he's capable of. He's not the fastest character, he's not the tankiest character, but, you know, he's got a lot of built-in healing and he's got fat built-in damage. And then his crowd control is almost unrivaled. Rex has a lot going for him. You know, he's got that slight movement ability. He can get up places where NG couldn't usually, or even Huntress or Commando, depending on what abilities you're using, couldn't even. So that on top of his massive range damage, his healing, there's just so many reasons of why Rex is one of the stronger characters than other characters. His M1 leaves a little bit to be desired in terms of like proc rate, damage, you know, shots, but give and take. He's definitely a good all-around character. Now it's time for our best boy, Acrid. And right off the bat, oh wait, no, it's not time for Acrid. I got the character order on the tier list wrong. Now it's time for our best girl. And my favorite character, my most picked, my most played. I'm probably coming up close to like 800 plus hours only playing Loader. Literally just playing Loader. I have 1,800 hours in this game, and I have picked Loader the most on all of my profiles. Except for my first one, because I mainly played that profile when Loader wasn't even in the game. And then I will have to say, Loader's primary, the passive on the primary on Loader, the whack whack, so good. I don't think that there's ever a time when Scrap Barrier is not useful. The temporary barrier only scales with things. It scales with attack speed because you can hit more. You can hit more enemies faster and get more barrier. It scales with your health because it's based on a certain amount of your health is what the barrier you get per hit. And then take into account that you can hit multiple enemies per swing. So you're hitting 3 or 4 enemies, you're doubling your health. You know, every time a Beetle Queen spawns, I just hold M1 and I win. Which might not sound like the funnest like playstyle, but to me it's fun. It's fun to be in the action. It's fun to take all that damage. It's fun to proc Razor Wire. I love being reckless. Secondary, this is what I talked about, a certified loader moment. This is very akin to Commando's utility. So let's say loader, default M1, very good ability. They both serve utility, do the same thing. Grappling Fist always pulls you to a target. So that could, in the long run, be a faster movement option because you can swing off of anything. A wisp, you know, like there's sometimes when you're stranded and you have your pylon is on cooldown and it's nothing for you to grab onto that's in the air and spiked fist, but a wisp and spiked fist is going to grab that, bring that wisp to you. What the damage spiked fist does, the stunning and the pulling targets to you is like a really good way to set up more damage potential, because you can pull like say a brass contraption to you and then you could punch through that into the boss, or you know, pull like a small enemy or in so that you can M1 it and get more barrier. So there's lots of options like that that let you like distribute your damage a little better by using just a crowd control basically. Yeah, Spike Fist, almost a no-brainer to choose instead. The minimal downsides to using it are far outweighed by just its overall utility and damage. Utility. A lot of people will say that this is a matter of preference, but to me, there's no substituting the Charge Gauntlet. The Charge Gauntlet to me is what Loader's Kit's all about. Proccing bands is Loader's destiny. There's almost no better band proc in the game. There's like two. There's two better band procs maybe. Oh well, now that Railgunner's out, maybe that's a bit of a better band proc. No, it's not. The Charge Gauntlet takes you a lot farther. The band damage is a lot stronger. Not stopping when you hit an enemy is great. It has so many utilities. I understand that it slows you down when you're charging, but you know, it's like Loader's only on the ground while the M2 is on cooldown, you know? So basically, if I'm playing Loader, I'm almost always charging my fist. I'm always just kind of hopping around charging my fist, and I understand, like, I take that movement speed penalty. Because, you know, it's like, if I was NG, I'd be moving like that all the time and I had no fucking recourse. It's not like, you know, so it's like, if I could deal with it there, I can definitely deal with it on Loader. When I'm only on the ground for 3 seconds, just like charge my punch. I'm like, oh, you guys are so dead when I start flying. But I love playing Loader. I love flying around. There's no better feeling than getting a good swing and a good punch. And I really feel that Thunder Fist, you know, it takes a lot of the nuance out of the character's playstyle, because it just takes you in a straight line. There's no charge. There's no finesse to it at all. I mean, you can definitely, but it requires a different type of playstyle that I don't find as interesting or as fun or as versatile in the game. Yeah, the damage is basically cut in half because it does the initial impact damage on a Thunder Gauntlet and then shoots out, and that basically splits your band damage in half. And if Loader's destiny is to proc bands, then, you know, what are you doing? Sacrificing all that band damage for what? For some directional control or immediate gratification of just being able to go that direction. But even when you're going that direction that you want to go immediately, you're going half or a quarter of the distance, you know? Like, Loader can get across almost every map with no items in like less than 2 seconds. But that ability suffers a lot when you use Thunder Gauntlet. All right, and then that goes down to the special, which is kind of a controversial moment for me because I prefer the pylon. I prefer the procs. I know the proc coefficient is kind of shit on the pylon. It's not huge, and it's not strong. But I think the utility of being able to grapple off it is really good. Loader can push the buttons by themselves. I also have a video on my channel showing you how to do the buttons by yourself on stage 2, Abandoned Aqueduct. Yeah, other than that, it's like the reason I don't like Thunder Slam is because I just think that it's a weaker it's like a weaker punch, and I don't need another punch. I don't need another way to go down quickly, and also it does not apply scrap barrier, which I think is an oversight. There might be a case to be used because, like, you know, you hit the ground and then if you hit anything with that, it gives you barrier. Like, that would be a really good, like, oh shit skill. You know what I mean? Like, it would give you a lot of barrier really quickly. Like, I don't know if like that would be balanced, but you know, or they could just make it so anything that you directly hit gives you barrier, but this in no way will give you barrier. So I just think that seems like an oversight to me. It's not a very, you know, good ability. I understand that it's probably more fun than pylon for some people, but I couldn't live without my pylon swings. I love the pylon. I love swinging the pylon. I always take Lysate Cell so that I can shoot out 2 or 3 pylons. 3 is the max you can have out. I'm always playing around my Bandoliers. I'm a crackhead for Bandoliers on loader because I'm always trying to get that pylon out, because that's going to be a good way for me to proc my ATGs, my ukuleles, anything else, you know. Also, Scrap Barrier, can't not mention that Razor Wire plus Scrap Barrier, you know. What's better than spending your Razor Wire on Scrap Barrier, or spending your Scrap Barrier on Razor Wire? It's like, I love Razor Wire. I love the risk reward of playing with it, and then the Scrap Barrier just makes that all the more feasible. So let's go ahead and put Loader in her rightful place. S+ tier. The developers themselves admit that Loader's busted. There's a billion reasons why Loader's the strongest character. It's the fastest character, fastest single target damage, you know, best scaling, highest consistency, my most favorite and funnest character to play, and the cutest girl. So there's just like no other reason why Loader might be anywhere else in the thing. It's like there's no other character that like fits this description. So yeah, Loader was destined to proc bans and destined to be S+ tier, to be broken in every way, and to be the developer's favorite. Or I don't know developer's favorite, but like my favorite, closest to my heart. S+ tier for being close to my heart. All right, I'm gonna let you seethe over that for a little moment. I'm gonna go grab a drink because my throat is quite dry. I might play tier list, someone says. All right. Now it's time for the ultimate boy. Everyone's goodest boy. The favoritist doggo. The Hapu's golden boy. Acrid. Loader is my main character. Acrid is my second character. I love Acrid. I know it's ironic that I say I love Acrid when I only loop, because Acrid pretty much becomes useless at stage 20. But I love leaping around. I love smacking and whacking, and I love the poison ticks. Monkey brain, love the poison ticks. But speaking of poison ticks, that brings us to Acrid's poison. Or blight. So I will say that Acrid is a very consistent character because he can basically kill anything. Like, you can hit 8 mountain shrines on 8-player difficulty, and you know, everyone else can die and it just be Acrid left to carry, and Acrid will get it done. His poison applies 10% over 10 seconds. Is that what it was? Yeah, 10% over 10 seconds. So, you know, you're looking at 100 seconds to kill anything, which is like almost the time it takes to get the teleporter anyway. So as long as Acrid can maintain that and move around, you know, and survive, he's good to go. And I would say the most important aspect to playing Acrid is keeping that poison applied. Because, you know, I always say, it's like, as long as you're poisoning with Acrid, your DPS is almost as high as it can be. You know, anything you do with your leap or your M2, impact damage, or your primary attack, that's just extra damage on top of doing what you're meant to do already. You know, it's just like Acrid's poison is basically like Engi's turrets. You know, you throw out your poison, you run around in a circle, and if you're feeling a little feisty, you can get in there, whack, 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 and, you know, use your M1. But as long as you're poisoning, you're doing God's work. And so that brings me down to Acrid's primary. So the 10% regeneration, is that what it is exactly? Regenerative, whatever. The regeneration that you get on Acrid's M1 was, in an interview, Hapu said it was a band-aid solution to fix melee Acrid. And to this day, I'm not quite sold on Acrid's melee capabilities. I don't think the regeneration is enough. In the most recent update, the Survivors of the Void, they tweaked his animations and the regenerative effect using the shift cancel, which is a cool piece of tech. It's fun that they are treating Acrid that way. But realistically, to put him in melee range requires a little more effort, a little more build, a little more setup. And I don't think that the danger is worth it. And I don't think, even combined with Bite, which we'll get into next, I don't think that melee Acrid is sustainable. I always say that melee Acrid is a good playstyle for people to catch up on reading, or maybe they got to do some homework, because you spend a lot of time dead, because Acrid has no business being in melee range. Visions is a huge bonus for him. And I will say, as far as the secondary goes, the neurotoxin, I don't like people who pick Bite, because it cuts Acrid's utility almost in half, because the secondary is almost so important, especially for bosses, because you can use your R on one boss, but you can't always hit both bosses with your R. So you're just gonna wait and poison them, take turns? No, you have to get your poison on the other boss. And to do that at range, you have to use the default secondary. And then it also pairs really well with Visions. I feel like the utility that comes from the secondary far outweighs the utility that comes from the Bite, because I know the Bite heals you, but the range on the secondary is a lot more useful, I should say. I know that's controversial. I know people love melee Acrid, but it is what it is, in my opinion. Like the Bite, not Slayer. Slayer, what does that mean? Can kill? Deals 3 times damage up to low health enemies. Oh, that's kind of cool. I forgot about that. I do remember that now that I read that. But yeah, it's the utility on it is not as powerful as the utility on Neurotoxin. Utility, that is truthfully a preference thing. I prefer the Caustic Leap because of its lower cooldown. I know that this one has a reduced cooldown, but like I said, Acrid, not very strong in melee range, so hitting enemies not ideal. You'd have to hit, so 6 seconds, you'd have to hit 2 enemies with it to get the same amount of cooldown. And it's like you can't always hit 2 enemies. 1, sure thing. You can hop on a Wisp's head to get that cooldown reduction, but it's not worth it, unless there's like 2 or 3 next to him. So I always go with Caustic Leap. I like the puddle of poison it leaves. I like to put those on Beetle Queens and stuff. Special, it is what it is. Great ability. Huge. All right, and then, so the poison versus blight debate. I'm not going to get into it. I don't know the math behind it, but I will say that I prefer poison. But, you only need 1 poison on your team. If you want to have a second Acrid, it's totally feasible. They can just go blight, it's a different play style. But I've never had a good blight run. I've never been like, wow, this blight is busting. I've done runs where we've literally done I think it was 8 or 9 Acrids and 1 poison, and then all of us were blight. So we were getting 18 stacks of blight on the first boss. But it's all that blight we were doing was comparable to 1 Commando who printed bleed, you know what I mean? Not even max bleed. Maybe he has 7 bleed daggers, and they're doing just as much damage as a huge group, a massive swarm of blight Acrids. And it's just at that point, it's what is blight doing? Why blight? What are you doing? Stop it. Get some help, blight. Okay, Acrid, though, like I said at the very beginning, I started this off by saying Acrid is definitely one of the best characters, because he's one of the strongest characters, because Acrid can kill anything, given the time, given the movement. So that's going to have to land Acrid in S tier. And I put him behind Rex, no brainer, because I think playing Rex is so much more fun, even though I love Acrid. Acrid, Rex, and Loader, those are definitely my favorite characters. But I'm just going to have to say that Acrid, he's really strong, really good character. Versatile even. But his synergy with a lot of items, not great. But his overall potential for a successful run is almost unlimited because of the poison. As long as you survive and you do what you can to not die, the poison will take you there. So that's got to put Acrid on S tier. All right, our last 4 characters remain. And actually, I think I'm going to do Heretic before I get to the DLC for Survivors, because I have a little bit less to say about Heretic, but Captain. So I'm going to start off Captain by saying I love the Michael bots. Like, what a great item. What a fun thing to play around. What interesting uses you can make for it. The synergies with the drones are so much fun. The idea of, you know, possibly getting more of them throughout the run, Shrine of Chance, or Shrine of Order, I should say, or Vengeance. There's a lot of fun, silly things you can do with Captain. Love the Michael bots. The primary ability, very fun, very satisfying to use, and that's very important for Captain because that is all he does. Especially in a late stage run, you know, all he's got is his M1. That's all you can do is shoot things. You're not going to be stunning anything with your M2. You're not going to be stunning things with your M2 on stage 2, let alone stage 20. So the M2 is just something to shoot because it's there. Every now and then it's useful. It's like, hey, look, that freaking elite stone golem is right where my Diablo Strike's going to land. Might as well stun him. But you're not, you know, you're not playing around to stun ever. That never happens. No one does that. Utility, this strong preference because, you know, the usefulness of being able to quickly eliminate the target with the orbital strike definitely has inherent value. Love that one. It's very good with the bandoliers. So is sorry, I got distracted. It's very good with bandoliers because you can fire it off really quickly and does 3 strikes, do a lot of damage, great band procer, good crowd control. Doesn't leave much to be desired. But the Diablo Strike is usually what I go with because I like to troll, and I love that it does damage to everything in the proximity. Yeah, I love killing my teammates with it. I like killing myself with it. Getting a brain stocks or just cooldown reduction in general. Hilarious. Very funny. So it doesn't matter which one you pick there. You're going to have a fun time with Captain no matter what, if you like Captain's playstyle of M1ing. But I would say at the end of the run, you know, both these skills kind of become obsolete. But I would say in a long run, the Diablo Strike is easier just because you can set it and forget it. You know, you don't got to go into this special aiming mode and remember to not sprint and then make sure you use all 3 of your charges. No, you're just like, there's enemies here at one point, so I'm putting it down. But yeah, just kind of throw it out and then you're done kind of skill. Captain Special, the beacons. There are only 2 beacons that I would really even consider taking ever, and it depends on what I'm doing. It's either double hacking or double shocking. I will say that overall, like the shocking beacons retain their value as utility in the longest. The shocking beacons, you know, just as useful stage 1 as they are stage 15 because they're gonna be doing the same thing, stunning enemies, and they're really good at stunning enemies. And double shocking beacons, so good at keeping enemies in the same area. It's almost like having a little personal Rex to like stun enemies for you. I do love double shocking beacons. I think healing beacons are a death trap. They're not strong. They're not strong healing. This range is too small. Standing in there will get you killed. Resupply beacons, fun gimmick, but you know, Heal Cell or Soulbound Catalyst or Protector of the Drowned, all way better options to play around than your resupply beacons. Then hacking beacons. What do you need to say about hacking beacons? Everyone loves hacking beacons. I love hacking beacons. Nothing better than getting a double, triple hack on a chance shrine, and then there's 2 chests next to it. Amazing. But hacking beacons, they lose their usefulness because after a certain point in your run, it's literally slower to hack a chest than it is to get the money for it. Obviously, it's different for legendary chests, but most chests, you know, it's like, you know, when you're late in a run and you're like, why can't I buy this chest? Oh yeah, I haven't killed an enemy on the stage yet. And you kill one enemy and then you can afford every single chest. So it's like,
hacking beacons lose their usefulness, but they're definitely useful in early game, especially if you share items. You know, I always do that when I hack beacons as captain. People be like, hey, this is over here, can you hack it? And I'm like, boop, there you go. And then, but, you know, I have no problem. Looting is a skill, as I say. Captain, really good at looting.
So I think that captain is overall, he's a pretty consistent survivor, especially if you utilize your beacons well. They can really give you an advantage by giving you extra items faster than you would normally get them. Or the shock beacons, you know, can really, during the teleport event, kind of just immobilize every enemy on the stage and kind of leave you to go mano a mano with the boss, because 90% of the enemies are trapped in your shock beacons. Just don't ignore them, just don't shoot them. So that's a really good solo aspect to captain. So I think that he is one of those characters that you pick because he's consistent and he's fun to play. But now we must decide how fun he is to play. And this is something I've been kind of thinking about the whole time I've been talking about captain, because like, is captain being just the M1 machine that he is, like, more fun to play than some of the other characters that are pretty fun to play? Because you know, he's just the M1 machine, but at the same time, the funny haha beacon and the Michael bots, you know, you can't underestimate those Michael bots. Spreading them to the drones, using them to clean up the poison on the ground, deleting the ally worship unit's little ground thingies, like that's indispensable. Indispensable. I'm making a lot of people mad with this tier list, but I feel like I'm being really reasonable to this game here. Like people are putting characters in like D tier. Like I said, this game has no D tier content, but yeah, so captain, he's consistent, but how fun is he? I'm gonna put him between Huntress and Commando. I think that's the only spot for him, because teleporting around as Huntress is more fun. MUL-T is more fun. Mercenary is the funnest. He's a little bit more fun than Commando. I'm in the Risk Your Brain 2 Discord giving a real-time update of my tier list placement. And it's just making someone so mad. All right, now it's time for another character that I have I can't even bring up their skills, but another character I don't have a lot of experience in, because I don't. Well, it's not that I don't pick them that often. I don't almost ever use all of these abilities on one character. But I dabble in the items on other characters. But Heretic, I will say that Heretic has some unique advantages, but I don't like strides. W tier list. Yay, someone agrees. Sorry, Heretic. Consistency wise, Heretic is kind of out of the running, because, you know, if you're playing with legitimate lunar coins, the way the game is meant to be played, it's not a very accessible character. So where Heretic fits into the tier list, I think, is almost irrelevant. It's not a character you can pick. I'm gonna put Heretic in their own category. Underneath, still good, but, you know, less consistent, because you can't even consistently pick the survivor. Heretic is very powerful. The ruin debuff, especially if you have multiple people applying the stacks of ruin, extremely powerful. But I think strides is boring. Vision's not the most exciting skill to use. Essence is basically non-existent. And hooks of heresy, what the fuck does that even do? Obviously I know what it does, but it just it's not a very performant or expedient, not a very forefront of the tool set skill, like basically to be had on Heretic anywhere. So I think Heretic really belongs in a league of their own, because Heretic is more a combination of items than a character, and all of those items I feel better complement other characters in smaller and different rearranged ways. So Heretic, as the sum of those parts, really can't be compared fairly to the other characters, because Heretic, like I said, is just more of a combination of items than a character.
So Heretic in a league of their own. Heretic is its own thing. Just kind of a cop out, I guess, to just make Heretic its own tier. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that it's just kind of pointless to try and pit Heretic against the other characters when Heretic's just so different in so many different ways. All right, so let's go to the DLC characters now. Obviously, I don't have as much experience with these characters because they haven't only been out for a couple months. I've been playing this game since day one, like I had mentioned earlier. I've restarted a profile for every major update, so I've 100% of this game at various points of content. So some of my old 100% profiles aren't even 100% anymore because they've never played with artifacts or they've never played the anniversary update. So where I'm going to come from with Railgunner is a little bit different of a place than some of the other survivors because obviously I have less experience, and also I suck at Railgunner. I'm not good at mouse aiming. I don't have a very good mouse. I don't have a very good ergonomic setup for FPS gaming. I like Risk of Rain 2 because it's more of an action game than a shooter. But Railgunner as a character herself is a great kind of, I would say, like showcase of what makes Risk of Rain 2 such an excellent game. I would have to say that the quick scoping aspect of Railgunner's gameplay is really entertaining. It's definitely fun. It's a cool twist on a fun mechanic from some other games like Call of Duty quick scoping or something like that. It's fun to build a character around that. I think overall, Railgunner's kit is well balanced and all of the skills are pretty much useful. I would say, but there are some that I would pick over the others. I would almost say that the loadout I have here for Railgunner is my preferred loadout. Although I have not played enough with these, the secondary or the utility, the alternates, I have not played with them enough. I've done the alternate secondary. I do enjoy that one, but I just prefer the high damage of the single shot sniper. And then the polar field device I've honestly never used. I love the movement of the concussion device, and I would not trade that for the slowing down of projectiles. Unless maybe there's a way to make it go really far, so I could throw it at some enemies that were far away and then snipe them. But yeah, the way it works now, I'm just not into it. So yeah, I'm not very good at aiming or sniping as Railgunner, but if you are, you can definitely do a lot of damage as this character. The default M1 not being able to crit is kind of annoying to me. The way that Railgunner works with crit is really cool, but I hate not being able to proc my Harvester Scythe faster or anything like that. Definitely has some knock-on effects for as far as what can crit coming from a Railgunner. But hitting those big damage attacks, very good band proc or missile proc. So I would have to say primary, yeah, it is what it is. You hold M1, you shoot, you pew pew, and you can fly around with it. Very funny. Secondary, I would say the stronger attack is more useful for the way that I like to play, but I understand if you're going to be more of a Railgunner main, just being able to consistently and quickly pew 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 doing damage probably fits more playstyles better. Utility, concussion device, moving around with this thing is so much fun. I love the nuance available, in placing these mines. I love, jumping off a high ledge and putting the mine at the bottom so that it explodes right before you land, gives you the boop, little bounce, and then you land safely. Or just blasting yourself away with it. Or when you get more movement speed and you got to throw the mine out farther in front of you than you're used to. Really fun. The special, the supercharge, obviously it's a really strong skill, but it's I never use this during the stage. I almost never use this against regular enemies because it's yeah, I can eliminate a couple targets really quickly, but in the time my weapons are disabled, I'm just I'm gonna be right back to where I was when I needed to blast all those enemies in the first place. So it's I'd rather not leave myself defenseless. The cryo charge, also something I barely use. outside of the teleporter, obviously, but like the piercing effect of it is really good. Ice is extremely powerful, so it's good to have that on another character. I would say the utility of this one definitely outweighs the power of the other one. So I'm just gonna have to give it up to Cryo Charge. But as far as Railgunner being a starting character, starting this game on a new profile with the DLC is so much easier than starting it without the DLC, because having access to Railgunner is a very powerful character right off the bat. His base kit's really powerful. Maybe the item scaling leaves some to be desired in certain aspects, but base kit goes, Railgunner's got one of the most powerful base kits for sure. The crit damage is unbelievable. Guaranteed crits, amazing. The weak point damage is huge. One shot any boss basically. Huge potential there. And I'm gonna have to say, you know, Railgunner is a really consistent character, and I thought that I wasn't going to be putting any more characters in S tier, but the more I'm sitting here talking to myself, I've convinced myself that Railgunner might be an S tier character. And this is where my preference is going to weigh in. I'm going to have to put, you know, I put NG behind Commando, even though that's not my preference. I'm going to put Railgunner in front of Rex, because I would feel like more people will like Rex than Railgunner, or Railgunner than Rex, I should say. Because Railgunner is a lot easier to wrap your head around, and people have seen something like this before, so a lot of more people will gravitate towards Railgunner, especially being unlocked right away. You're gonna almost always, in every case, spend the most time with Railgunner rather than Rex. Rex is the hardest character to unlock, so I'm gonna say Railgunner's an S tier character. Railgunner's really powerful. Railgunner's, you know, comparable to Loader in damage, but not quite there. You know, Railgunner's not as strong as Loader. I'm gonna have to say. But you can definitely get a good run with Railgunner. The range on it makes it really powerful as a range survivor. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Railgunner is a good character. I may not be great with Railgunner myself, but I think Railgunner really good and consistent, powerful character. Although I will say in a later run, it is kind of a little too much of a hassle to do the aim and shoot thing and, you know, line up the weak point. I find myself mainly using the default M1 scatter shot, or just not even really aiming for a weak point and just pop and shoot just so I can kill a few enemies quickly. But I guess that leads me with the character that I have probably played the least other than Heretic, and that's Void Fiend. And to be honest, I like the idea of how Void Fiend works, but I don't much care for how it ends up playing out in practice. It always seems like when I'm in one form, I want to be in the other form. His utility is really split between these two forms. You know, it's like, oh, I really like the M1 in this form, but I really like the shift of this form. And there's really no, like, there's not a good way to balance that out. I know that, like, getting crits increases your corruption, healing reduces it, getting void items. I really like that whole, like, synergy there. I love how that whole thing comes into play, and it makes him a really interesting character. But as far as consistency goes, you know, it's like when you can't even be consistent, like, in the ways you deal damage or traverse the stage or regulate your health. It's like, how can you be consistent in getting, you know, powerful runs or long runs or not dying or getting the right items? I don't know. To me, Void Fiend has definitely a lot of good damage potential, but there's so many little ups and downs. There's so many checks and balances at play in just the base kit of his character that it's a lot of, I would say that more runs than not, it's hard to strike that balance between being powerful and yeah. I don't think that Void Fiend is a very good pick for a long run, because I feel like he does his best work at the longer range primary of his default state, like I'm saying the long range. Sorry, I'm talking less about the abilities specifically because I don't have them here in front of my face like the other survivors, but the long range, I prefer that one over the corrupted. The corrupted one though is the flight or whatever it's called. That one's really cool. I love that ability. It feels good to use. It's like super Artificer flamethrower. But the utility of the long range and its like consistency, it's really good. The secondaries, I like both of the secondaries. I like the little bit of a momentum play that you get through those. Both of the secondaries are pretty good. This is the default one's the one that arcs, right? I forget which one arcs and which one goes straight. It does throw me off a bit, which is more of a me issue, but like one's charged and one isn't charged. That kind of throws me off sometimes, but it's definitely a good like scattering ability, a good like, you know, miss me with that shit ability. It's definitely powerful too. I love using it. It's a little bit of everything. The utility, the default utility, I find it does do the cleansing debuffs, which I don't like massively use all the time. It's not like it's not like something I'm playing around or anything. Definitely every time I get Mal-Kited, I try to use it. That's about it. I really like the default one for its upward mobility, but I feel like it could go, you could have a little more control over it. It's yeah, it's just it's very situational. You know, it's a good movement ability, but you know, up is not the only direction I'm always trying to go. I know that it goes forward a little bit, but like up is one of the probably not as useful as the alternate version of it, which it takes you more forward, covers more horizontal ground, that one. But like I said earlier, it's always like when I'm in this mode, I wish I was in the other mode. So it's like, of course, this utility ability is going to be getting me up those ledges, but it's just like, what if I'm at Scorched Acres? Okay, well, I've gotten across the map when I'm corrupted, but now I need to go up this ledge, so I got to wait it out, you know, or I can go around. Depends on which faster, but yeah, the utility is where I feel it the most. I'm in this mode and I wish I had this other ability, and then sometimes when you're corrupted and there's nothing around, there's nothing around, you wish you had that range so you could shoot the wisp across the map. But yeah, as far as the special goes, I almost never use a special in a corrupted mode. I know what it does, but like there's like not much reason to use it in most situations. But I do like the default special, the healing, especially for hitting blood shrines or doing whatever, being reckless, proccing razor wire. That stuff's really fun, but I don't find myself using special all that often. Most of the time I use it just to stave off the corruption, just so I don't gotta deal with it. But yeah, I almost never use it when I am corrupted. Like, and when I do, it's not because I'm trying to prolong this damage. It's like, I'm trying to do some dumb shit with my corruption or something. And even at that, it's limited. It freezes you up for a second. It just feels like it takes more time than it's worth. So with all that being said, and my kind of distaste for Void Fiend, I'm gonna have to put him in B tier. I didn't expect to put another character in B tier, to be honest. At this point, I gotta ask, you know, is he more fun than Artificer? I'm just gonna say yes, because I prefer more mobile characters, and Artificer is definitely less mobile. So yeah, I think this is pretty definitive tier list in my opinion, because I see this game as really well balanced, well designed. I don't feel like there's massive power creep in this game, and I don't feel like any characters are like truly bad. I only think that one character is extremely broken, which they know it and it's supposed to be. But yeah, as far as it goes, I think that's pretty definitively my tier list. But we got S+ tier, that's Loader. Devs admit that she's head and shoulders beyond broken, and I love her for that. She's my best girl. I love playing her. S tier, we have the new DLC character, Railgunner. Obviously, it's a very powerful character, especially at the beginning of your profile. Like, starting out with this character is huge. When you're going for unlocks early in the game, I'd probably choose Railgunner 9 times out of 10. And I did. I just recently did that. I tried to unlock the 57 Leaf Clover on my first run, but I ended up doing it as Huntress just because I got a lucky red on stage 1. S tier, Rex, strongest range survivor in the game, in my opinion. Acrid, he can kill anything. His poison's bound to kill you. And A tier, these are those characters that you play them because they're fun. They're about average difficulty. You know, it's a roguelike. You're not going to win every run, but in the A tier, closer to the A is, in my opinion, or generally more fun to me than the ones farther away. So Mercenary, high skill ceiling, good damage rotation, All of his skills are really well utilized and balanced. Plenty of reason to pick any skill. MUL-T. You can play MUL-T in so many different ways. There's so many different reasons to use MUL-T, so many different situations you'd want him, so many different ways you can build him. He's just a all around fun range character. Huntress. I really like the triple blink. Really fun character to use, and keep saying that. They're all really fun. Captain, kind of a one-note character. He inches out Commando for me because of the microbots is a little more fun dynamic than some of the more fun and unique than to play on that defensive side, that support utility side. Commando, he's a basic pew pew guy. What more needs to be said? We love Commando. Engineer, not everyone's cup of tea. I love Engineer. It's a special place in my heart for Engineer, but you know, putting down turrets or sitting in bungus, not exactly lighting the world on fire. And then B tier, these are those characters who need a little more extra help, whose items can really turn the tides of their run, whose movesets I think are a little out of place or involved. I just got done going over Void Fiend, but you know, his inconsistency of switching and then, you know, always wanting one skill from one moveset and then needing something at one spot and not having it. So there's that aspect of Void Fiend, but he is a very fun character to play. I will say he's more fun than the other characters because he's more mobile than Artificer. Artificer, I really like the damage rotation. Skill ceiling on Artificer is really fun, but like some of the other characters in this tier, you know, not having great items can really not really hamper your run in the long run for Artificer. So Artificer is less consistent in my eyes. And then Bandit, kind of another one-note character. The poof ability is really good, but other than that, he doesn't particularly excel in any field. The backstab damage is like huge. I will say he's probably the most consistent of the B tier characters. Like, you can definitely play around the backstab damage to get the teleporter bosses done relatively quickly. But as far as like my preference for his playstyle, I prefer Artificer, even though he's a good I just like more of Artificer's skills, that's why. And then in the Heretic tier is Heretic, because, you know, like I said in the Heretic section, like there's less to Heretic's more of a collection of items rather than a character. But yeah, I've been talking for almost 2 hours. This is going to be the longest thing I've ever worked on, but I hope it was worth it. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you at least found some of what I said insightful. I know that I pissed a lot of people off along the way, but I think I gave a really charitable look at this game, and I really feel like I understand all the mechanics. You know, I mean, as far as like people say I don't know what I'm talking about. It's like there aren't as many people who play this game who know as much about the, like, not just like how the characters work, but their interactions with all the items, the inner workings of the game. You know, I'm constantly using console commands. If you ever watched one of my streams, you know, I'm like a Risk of Rain 2 dungeon master. It's like I control everything. I have all my hotkeys set to all these different things, you know. So it's like yeah, this is coming from a place of a lot of experience in the game. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I hope that there's something that you maybe learned or agreed with, or maybe you see a character in a new light. That's a goal of all this, is to start a discussion. So yeah, if you have any seething hatred for me, be sure to let me know in the comments. I really do appreciate anyone who takes time to, like, you know, just listen to what I say, or join for a stream, or do whatever. I'm really close to affiliate on Twitch, so if you could follow me and maybe get my watch time up, start running ads, maybe make this gaming gaming hobby kind of pay for itself, you know what I mean? So that'd be really cool. But otherwise, thank you for bearing with me through this. But I really enjoyed doing something like this, and I'll be back for more items later, but I can't do all the items in one video. That's gonna be insane. All right, but yeah, no. Peace out. That's the end of this stream. I'll probably be back streaming later today, playing a game or playing Risk of Rain or playing with you guys. So catch me later, and we play some Risk of Rain. Bye-bye.